within the coming 5 years within Europe.
Right. We're speaking here about infrastructure and other issues. We'll come back to you, Dr. Azem, but let me here welcome Dr. Maher Nicolas Firzli, World Bank former advisor and director of Washington Forum. We thank you so much for joining us over the phone. And here, let me ask you, sir. The EU has proposed a 20 billion euro plan to develop the AI gigafactories, as we said, across Europe. Now, how do you see this initiative positioning the EU in the global AI race against the US and China from your point of view?
I'm delighted to join you today via audio. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfectly. So to borrow a remark from Prime Minister Lloyd George in London, I think it's too little too late. Why is it too little too late? Because 20 billion is nothing, and you have to understand the metrics here are essential. So the European Commission is proud of saying today that they will mobilize in the next 6-7 years 20 billion euros from the private sector to make AI investment across Europe. I think only one company in America among 15 or 20 companies active in the sector. Take NVIDIA, right? So NVIDIA is a microchip manufacturer, also active in AI R&D and AI facilities. NVIDIA alone, what is the market cap of NVIDIA today? NASDAQ in New York, it's 2.7 trillion. What does it mean? NVIDIA alone, one American company, its value, its market cap today is 100 times more, actually 130 times more than the whole of private sector money the Europeans wish to mobilize in the next 5 years. So clearly, the amount of money is not enough. But it's not only about money. It's also about long-term planning. Sadly, the Europeans, were quite good. In the old days, the French, the Germans, were famous for their 5 or 6 years industrial planning. Today, Europe has changed, sadly, and they no longer have a strategic long-term planning ethos, and so they are very short-termist. And so today, AI is trendy. If you flip to the pages of the Financial Times, AI is on the front page every day. So if you are a European, let's say bureaucrat, you say, oh yeah, it is trendy, let's do AI. It doesn't work like that. You have to plan long in advance. And so in the Silicon Valley, but also in Washington, D.C., policy level, they have been interested in AI for 15, 20, 30 years. You cannot become an AI giant overnight. And so sadly, it will be very, very difficult for Europe to go back in the race. What do I mean by the race? It's an American-Chinese race. And it may well be a race to the death, a fight to the death. And sadly, the EU is to a large extent outside the race. It's really sad because they have some things they can build upon. They have good research labs. They have good universities. They have good engineers, software engineers. But having good, software engineers and good universities is not enough to proclaim yourself overnight an AI leader. It takes much more than that.
Right. So we're speaking here, you and Dr. Azem, you both agreed that Europe is way behind its abilities to compete at this field because of the different issues you spoke about. Now, the European Commission emphasizes that AI as central to Europe's competitiveness, security, and technological sovereignty. Now, how can the EU balance innovation with its own regulations with regard definitely to the big issues you spoke about?
Well, here also, sadly, it hurts. It hurts because the choice of words the European Commission is using shows you how unprepared and disorganized they are. And if you read between the lines, you have to read between the line and hate their jargon. Why am I saying that? Now, very recently, after what the White House did to them, quote unquote, regarding the war war between Ukraine and Russia, which took European policymakers by surprise. Another big surprise they had was 6 days ago when President Trump slapped huge tariffs on them. It was really a big shock for European policymakers. So now they're saying, okay, you guys want to stop, backing Ukraine against Russia. You want to start a trade war. Okay, now, overnight, we are going to be sovereign. But it's really ridiculous because, sovereignty is not something you decide overnight. And then, once again, these are 10, 15, 30 years investment cycles. And so until recently, until a month ago, basically.
So you say here, sir, that that the issue is much more politicized or political than it's really considering to compete in the AI field, right?
Well, it's both. Why is it both? Because we live in the age of geoeconomics. What does it mean, the age of geoeconomics? Precisely the old wall, which separated, on the one hand, the world of politics, military issues, national security, and on the other hand, the world of finance, industry, and commerce. That wall is collapsing. It is collapsing because the Chinese and the Americans want it that way. We're entering in the world of geoeconomics. So what does it mean? Finance, industry, foreign policy, war, it's all now converging into one field called, the age of geoeconomics, right?
Yes.
And everything is weaponized. So law, trade, computer, AI, all this will be used as weapons in the future in the great, new Cold War pitting Washington against Beijing. And the Europeans only belatedly, 3-4 weeks ago, realized that. But it's almost too late for them because of that. It needs long-term planning and sovereignty. AI sovereignty starts with data sovereignty.
Right.
So the Europeans are not even able today to own their own data. As simple as that.
Dr. Azzam, you spoke about the